All right, everybody, we are back again. If I sound a little groggy and tired, I don't know. I feel a little off today, mentally, emotionally, feel good, physically, just feel blah. But no matter, it's just another thing to get over. But we will do so. Now, as far as the podcast, I tell you guys where I find everybody, and as of late, 99% of them, it seems to be they're all from TikTok. I really found my niche there, really have created a lane for myself, and have met so many really, really cool people. And, it really is true is, you get what you put out. And, I don't ask people, do they have disabilities, unless they tell me. I don't ask them that they've been through abuse or whatever it is, they just tell me, and, they just kind of stick to me. They come to me and we become friends, and I always just offer either a support system, whether it's a friendship or, come on the show, whatever. And every now and then, even once a day, even just I find somebody who would be great for the show. And so our next guest fits right into that category. Another strong warrior who goes through a lot, but does her best to overcome in her own way. And, I told her she'd be a great fit, so here we are. So would you like to, introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, your name and all that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your show. My name is Deborah Vick. I definitely fit in the resilience category, but I will first say I am a founder of a nonprofit foundation called Victorious. I am a author for 2 co-collaborative books that are best-selling books in the mental health and wellness being fit-based. I am also a patient advocate, speaker, and a mindfulness and adaptive yoga facilitator, in short.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we connected on is you being a disability advocate, and you've been doing it a lot longer than me. But one of the things I said...
30 plus years.
Yeah, one of the things I said about you is, you're needed because there's so many people who are disabled and they don't know how to advocate for themselves. That's one of the first things I think we should be taught, is to first know how to advocate for yourself before you can advocate for anyone else. And
that's what led me to become a disability advocate. I would like to say I was a reluctant disability advocate. I had plans for a career in law and politics with the ultimate dream of running for president of the United States. And when I was in law school, I was adamant that I wasn't going to be a disability lawyer. But when I discovered how hard I had to fight for life-saving treatments, and I have the benefit of having trained in political advocacy arenas since the age of 15, I realized disability advocacy was where I was needed.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of people with disabilities who... I remember having this one interview with this one woman, and we were just talking about all the things she fights for. And this was back when Me Too was really big, and Black Lives Matter, and she was black and a woman, and she was fighting for both those causes, but she was also severely disabled. And I'm like, why don't you fight for disability rights? And she's like, I don't know, I never really thought of it. I didn't think it was as important. And I'm like,
right.
No, it is. Like, it's just we're not taught that it is that important. We're still the forgotten people. But being a woman, being black, or any of those things are obviously extremely important to fight for, but so is being disabled. And you're never going to make any change unless you speak up.
Well, I actually like that you brought that up. Now, my master's program, it was quite a few years ago. I'm aging myself here, but I earned my master's in 1998. And my master's, although it was in education, the focus was in retention for minority people in higher education. And constantly the one category that was left out was disabled. Yeah. And in fact, the dean of my program, who was a person of color, told me when I first started that disabled people don't graduate. Now, I will say he changed his mind. At time of graduation, the deans had the ability to nominate stories to be shared during graduation ceremonies. And my story was the closing story shared at the commencement ceremonies at the University of Arizona State University. So he did change his concept, but I had the same wall in law school, and that's a whole other story. But I will say that disabled people in these minority retention programs and recruitment and education programs are often left out. And we are the one category that anybody can become disabled at any time. It doesn't matter race or socioeconomic status, although race and socioeconomic status do impact care and treatment that people with disabilities get.
Right.
But anybody can become disabled at any time. So it is a category that is often left out, especially in the education space as well as in the medical arena.
Yeah. Well, and kind of what you were saying, like our ceilings are so low in society. So the idea of graduating or hell, being in love or whatever, we are not really thought of being able to achieve much. So when we do something like graduate, it's like, what? And that's why it's so important for me to constantly do what I do and speak and meet so many people like you, because it's like, man, we have to change this stupid ass narrative that we have that we're not capable of anything. I think I look at it like we talk about limitations all the time. And to me, limitations are not about if you can or can't do it. It's about how you can do it. Because we can do anything. It's just we can't do it like most. I can't do sighted things, or I can't do things how sighted people do it. I have to do it my own way, just like you. With mobility issues, like you can do things. It's just not going to look the same way as how I do it.
Absolutely not.
And that's okay. But, it's something you got to swallow. We all have things we just can't do it certain ways, and we all want to fit in. We all want to be like, oh, I want to. I don't want to stand out, but the older, I don't know about you, but the older I get, I don't give a shit about, fitting in anymore. I love being different. Like that whole, you're weird, or you're not like us, you're not normal. Thank you. That's a compliment to me, because I don't want to be like most people. Most people are weird and goofy themselves in a bad way. And, and my disabilities are not the only reason why I'm different. So, and I can stand on that. Because it's like, but yeah, it's, I don't know. Like I said, there's so much work that we have to do as people with disabilities, just in our own lives, just to try to get anywhere, just to have a voice, have, our own independence.
To be seen and to be heard and to be recognized.
Yeah. Well,
and most importantly, to be included, to be given a space at the table for whatever the program may be.
Yeah. Well, and true independence is something that we all strive for. I mean, everyone, not just people with disabilities, but especially those of us with disabilities, we strive for our independence, trying not to rely on anybody or very little.
And unfortunately, that is significantly challenged. I will say and I'm not in the category, but many of the people that I work with face financial challenges too. And one of the huge limitations in our society right now is the almost, I don't know how to word this, but the women or men that are disabled that become married, they can be financially trapped, because one, it can be incredibly difficult to get Social Security or Social Security disability income. Mm-hmm. But if you do get it and you get married, you're very likely to lose it. So now you become financially tied to another person and almost trapped because of fear. If you get divorced, how do you get your compensation again? I know, in fact, my husband and I have been together since 1985. I was on Social Security disability income when I was pregnant with our first child, and we had to push off getting married for quite some time until he had a medical insurance that would cover my medical needs. And I think we got married when my son was 4 months old. But in doing so, I gave up my own independence of that disability income check. Now, I am fortunate. My husband and I have been married for 20 years and been together for 30 years. But once we got married, I lost that check and I became completely financially dependent on him. And if we were to get divorced, I would have to worry about, spousal support. And if I didn't have spousal support, getting Social Security disability income reinstated. Now, my medical conditions are very severe, and I ended up getting SSI, Social Security Disability Income, approved in record time. But that wouldn't mean that would happen again necessarily.
No.
And I see people often stuck in situations that can be abusive physically or mentally, and yet they're financially dependent on the other person. And it's another level of, I want to say almost captivity, where I see these people in these horrible situations, and there's not an easy way out for survival. So it's just another concept of dependency where you can be stuck. And it's a shame that you have to give up what little independence you might have when you get married. And there was recently a documentary on a couple that couldn't get married because if they got married, they would lose the and when I say independence, it's not just the $800 check; it's the insurance that you receive when you're on Social Security disability.
That's actually more important.
Exactly, and that was actually our challenge. So where we live in California, there is or at least there was a clause when I was getting it, that if your medical expenses was twice that of the premium, the state would cover your premium for private insurance. So when I was on SSDI, I actually had Kaiser and I had the Medi-Cal. So I wasn't paying anything when I went to appointments, but I had very good medical care. And that was what we couldn't afford to lose when I was pregnant, is I couldn't afford to lose the insurance that was covering my extensive medical needs. And that's where I see people are really stuck. So I wanted to share that too.
Yeah. Well, I also have a friend who has a severe disability, and she's not working right now, and she's been with her now boyfriend for many years, and they won't get married because of that. But now Social Security is trying to dig into like they're going after her, going, well, why aren't you getting married? You're with him for 15 years. You should be getting married. And they're putting pressure on her, and that's a thing too. It's not just, oh, well, then you don't have to get married. No, man, they don't want to give that check out. They truly don't want to give that insurance or that check out. So they are going to try to cover their bases any way they can. And and it's why there's so many traps. That's why I say all the time, like the hardest part about having a disability is everything else. The disability is hard enough, you know. It's already a crazy world to live in with a disability, but now it's all these other little traps that you get caught in, where it's like they don't really promote you to work. They either say stay home and be dependent or work. But if you work, you don't get this great insurance and you don't get this monthly check. And, you know, and there's always this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. And then there's a stigma to us that it's like, I've gotten it multiple times where it's like, well, you're lucky, you get a monthly check. And it's like, do you understand that monthly check doesn't pay my rent? Or it does pay my rent, but that's all it pays, right? It doesn't pay for my cat food. It doesn't pay for my streaming platforms. It doesn't pay for my cell phone. It doesn't pay for my internet. It doesn't pay for just groceries. It pays for my rent, because rent keeps going up. It doesn't go down. And because
and it barely covers rent, and it covers rent in a more subsidized area than in the general population.
Yeah. Well, I get SSDI.
So that's the other thing.
I get a little more. So I get like close to 13, 14. So it's nice, but my rent is $1,000. So like I don't have any subsidized prices, but I have neighbors who have the same size apartment as me who pay $200 for the same apartment.
Oh, okay, well. So in general, though, that's not the cost of living. Like where I live, you're lucky to get a single bedroom place to rent for $1,800.
Right.
So I live in Southern California. Right. We lived in this area just south of San Diego for 12 years. Then we moved to the Bay Area when my husband was working for Netflix. And once he was able to work remotely, we moved back down to this area because my best medical care has been at UCSD in general. So we moved back to this area so that I can receive the medical care that I did the best under. So it is that as well. And yeah, insurance is a huge thing. I was getting Kaiser at the time, which it covers much more than Medi-Cal covers. So there is that as well. And then there's the other issue. I was just speaking at a conference where I titled my speech, "If it isn't accessible, it isn't sustainable." And one of the areas I talked about employment. And so in the United States, 1 in 5 women with disabilities are employed. In general, it's one over the entire population, it's 1 out of 3 people with disabilities are employed. But it's not just about creating accessibility at the employment agencies. It's creating programs for part-time employment, because many people with chronic illnesses, including myself, would not be able to work full-time, but we would be able to contribute. But unfortunately, if you work part-time, you might get too much money that you lose your benefits and not enough money that you can live on, or more importantly, get the insurance. And one of the things that I spoke about was having part-time jobs available and part-time jobs with benefits available, because one of the, personally, I'd work for benefits. At this point, my husband's retired because most of his time is spent caring for me, and he's my caregiver, but also transporting me. He introduces himself as my Uber driver. But honestly, we're getting to the point where he would go back to work just for benefits. So when we're paying in Obamacare, we're paying $6,174 a month for medical insurance. And that's just for me. That's not even including my service like medical insurance or co-payments or out-of-pocket costs, or the cost for, I have a doctor who's a specialist for myasthenia gravis. He's out of network, so we're paying cash for him. So we're paying much more than $7,000 a year in medical expenses, and out-of-pocket deductibles $4,000. So we're actually paying close to $80,000 a year in medical expenses out of pocket. So it's definitely expensive to be me.
Yeah. No, I mean, anybody who's been keeping track of my situation, I was going to New York to get this surgery, and the surgery was going to cost $150,000. But then they couldn't do the surgery, but it was like, hey, what about these contact lenses? Because we can't do the surgery right now, but you can go to Kentucky or Boston, which is much further. And I'm like, and they brought up these contact lenses, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I look, they're $15,000, and I'm like, that's just for one a piece, one each. And so it's like, damn, but now my insurance looks like they're going to cover. They were fighting it because it's out of state and all that, but it's such a pain in the ass because, there's so much mind fuckery that goes into it, because it's, we should have universal health care. We should be able to just go any place in the country and be seen, especially for those of us with severe conditions where there are doctors that specialize and they create surgeries specifically for our illnesses, and they could do some
treatments.
Yeah.
I mean, I was denied a treatment right now, even though in the study, so I have myasthenia gravis, and there's a marker for it, a genetic marker for it. Not a genetic marker, but a blood test marker for it. But 20 to 30% of people with myasthenia do not have the markers. And these studies are FDA approved for people with markers, but they have been proven effective for the seronegative community. My doctor authorized it, prescribed it, and the insurance company is not covering it. Our previous insurance company was much better, and I had an advocate in the system who helped me override the denials. Here, I've been denied, and it's I believe it's $15,000 or $30,000 of treatment, and I'm supposed to get it every other month, so I can't get it now. I'm relegated to another treatment that I'm getting every other week. Again, that's about $45,000 a pop. My doctor wants me to get it every week, but the insurance company denied that as well. So, yes, I spend a ridiculous amount of time trying to appeal the programs and so forth.
Right. I mean, we
to
kind
get my medical care.
Can you, while we're on this subject, can you kind of discuss like what your conditions are?
Sure. I have a whole plethora of them. I actually have a list, and I like to collect rare diseases. So I'll first start with that. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Okay. That
is a series of connective tissue disorders. And ultimately, once any connective tissue stretches out, it can't retighten. So in my case, almost all of my joints, except for what is fused, sublux or dislocate. But it also impacts my heart, my bladder, my my lungs. So pretty much everything that is connective tissue is challenged in my body, including my eyes. It has led to severe disc degenerative disease. So I am actually fused from C1 to T12. That's my upper back. My doctor did recommend a fusion from T12 mid back to my pelvic because of severe degenerative disc disease and subluxations and severe stenosis in most of my lower back vertebrae. Unfortunately, the spine clinic has refused to do the surgery because of the severe challenge of possibly not surviving the surgery based on challenges with one of my other conditions called myasthenia gravis. That is also another autoimmune condition. Both Ehlers-Danlos and myasthenia are rare. Myasthenia is a condition where the messages from the brain to the muscles are interrupted or damaged. The signals are interrupted by my autoimmune condition. It means grave muscular weakness. It also impacts all of my limbs and breathing and ability to chew or swallow. It also causes me to become very susceptible to infections because it degrades my autoimmune system, but also the medications that I have to take to manage my myasthenia actually kills my entire autoimmune system in order to stop the immune system from attacking myself. So there's a huge balance of having to take treatments and putting myself at high risk for infections, which I do get frequently. I also have CRPS, called complex regional pain syndrome. That is in which my nerves take any sensation as pain. So that's in my knees. It's been a remission, but we're also having symptoms of that in my neck. And then I just forgot the other rare disease that I have. But I also have POTS. That is inability to regulate my autonomic system. It's actually POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's actually POTS Awareness Month. A lot of people with autoimmune conditions have it. Also, quite a few people with long-haul COVID have it as well. And my blood pressure drops very low, which means I frequently lose consciousness. So I am doing IV fluids daily to help manage my POTS syndrome, but it is a significantly disabling condition. It's actually caused me to lose my ability to drive 10 years ago. Owing to a significant imbalance with the body, visual challenges and cognitive challenges as well. Then I have a series of comorbidities that infect almost all my internal organs. So my children like to say it is easier to say what is working on me than what isn't working on me. Right. So there's a whole host of challenges.
No, I have friends I've met somebody with at least a few of those, but not all of them at once.
Oh no, I like to be an overachiever in everything that I do. So.
Yeah, man, you're trying to take all the disabilities for yourself. I don't know if I like it.
I'm hugging them. Oh, I have pelvic floor dysfunction. I have some visual challenges. I have a whole host of them.
Well, I guarantee you have mental health too, so you can throw that in there.
Actually, my mental health is very stable right now. Good. I am very grounded in the work that I do as a mindfulness practitioner, as a teaching breathwork, leading breathwork programs, leading adaptive yoga. I'm also a creative artist, which is my mental health practice. So 2/3 of my house is medical. Okay, I have a significant amount of medical supplies in my house because of all my IV treatments, but I also have, my house is completely filled with my creative art supplies. So there's only a little space carved out for my boys in their bedrooms and my husband in his office, and pretty much the rest of the house is been my territory. So I am very blessed in being able to find grounding and peace and serenity where I am at with my challenges. So I will say I am very lucky in that.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, like, what brings you so, because you're a very positive person for all the shit that you endure. You wear it very well.
Well, I find first of all, and this has been a challenge as my disabilities progress, part of my positivity comes through being of service to other people. So I am also a Boy Scout leader of 14 years now, and I love working with our Scouts, though my ability to work with Scouts has significantly diminished And, just 10 years ago, I was a program director for a Cub Scout camp for more than a few years, range master, scout leader, working with the scouts directly, running after school STEAM programs and so forth. My ability to work with the scouts has diminished, but I am still a scout leader. And I am also working with the special needs committee for our council. And I also teach workshops at another council that were my previous council up in Silicon Valley. Each year I go up to the training for adult leaders and I teach workshops on how to work with kids with special needs. But my positivity comes from instinct and the resilience. And I know everybody doesn't have that. It comes from multiple places. First, I am very lucky. I have a very supportive husband and two children that are very, I would say, adore me, love me very much, and are very supportive. Even my older son, my 19-year-old, checks in like every few hours to see if I'm okay. And they have become my caregivers, which I'll share about that in a minute. But I am also very fortunate because I am a person who finds strength through creativity and through a strong gratitude practice. So even when I'm in the hospital, my husband brings some of my crafting supplies that I have ready in my go-to hospital bag that include watercolor supplies and cards to paint. And I actually will paint the cards in the hospital and give them to my medical teams as a gratitude for their treatment. So I get to lose myself in the creativity process and also know I'm giving it as a gratitude practice. So that helps recenter me. I also, with my nonprofit, we have days, each Monday, we have Creative Art Time where everybody just brings whatever creative art project they're working on, whether it's coloring, quilting, drawing, digital arts, whatever it may be. We come together and we create together, talk about our challenges, but also always find something positive. For me, I have the mindset that it is okay to be frustrated. It is okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be lost. But at the end of that moment, you need to find something positive to grab onto. And sometimes it can be very difficult to find that. And learning how to redefine what success means in that moment is something that I've had to learn to embrace. There are times that I can barely get out of bed. And quite frankly, there are times when I'm feeling myself because I just can't get out of bed quick enough to get to the bathroom. There are times that I need assistance to get to the bathroom. There are times that I can get to the bathroom myself without any problem. Mm. So finding hope with what you can do and practicing awareness without judgment. So in other words, not judging yourself for the days that you can't move or for the days that you need to recover in bed. Accepting that as part of the journey and holding on to hope. And I'll be honest, in the rare disease community, 80% of rare diseases affect children and 50% of those are fatal. And it's an absolutely horrible thing to watch these parents posting that they've lost a child. And it's very grounding. I mean, I'll be honest, I've had at least 6 instances or more where I've had near-death experiences. A couple of them were very close. But I remember being in the ER, recovering from one of those near-death experiences, and seeing a parent post on one of my feeds a picture of an empty wheelchair and a stripped-down hospital bed and a foosball table all in the same picture. And they were posting the loss of their, I think, 13 or 14-year-old child. Right. It hit hard because my youngest was at the same age at that time that picture was posted. But it was a stark reminder of that I am still here. I'm still alive. I can still impact the lives of others. And no matter how hard my life is, I'm alive. And I find that there is hope and purpose in being alive. I know that when my last neck surgery, the one that 2 doctors told me I wouldn't survive, one being the Cleveland Clinic. I did find a doctor willing to do the surgery out here in San Diego. with the concept that I would likely survive, but there was a chance that I would end up intubated for life. That didn't happen. I did survive. I'm too stubborn not to survive, but that's a whole other story.
Mm.
One of the things that had happened was I became paralyzed from the neck down, and I was paralyzed from the neck down for several days, 3 days. And one of the things I remembered was, how do I serve my community like this? And I realized through my voice, I still have the power to empower and inspire other people. And simply realizing there is a way to give back, a way to connect to communities, a way to empower the lives of another person, even if it's just one person at a time, has value in it. So that is part of my ability to remain positive. Part of it, I'm just too stubborn to not be positive. No, I'm a goof at heart. And I find there's a way to love life wherever we're at. It is, though, part of acceptance of where you are and part of the ability to adapt to whatever your circumstances are in the moment and find purpose and joy with what you can do in that moment in time.
Yeah, very well said. Did you ever go through a moment where you were like, why am I cursed? Because, I mean, you go through so much.
Not why am I cursed, but why am I fighting another challenge? This last one, for example, it hit hard because I was supposed to go to Tahoe and meet my friend my friend Tracy has been my friend for 5 years. We met through social media. She FaceTimes with me practically daily. She's serving with me with Victorious. And we have not met in person. We were supposed to meet in person over a year ago at the end of a cruise that I was on. That was supposed to be a 28-day cruise ending in Vancouver. 3 days into the cruise, I had a seizure and I had to disembark. And there's a whole other story about traveling back to the United States through the back streets of Mexico where we don't speak Spanish. But hey, that's another story. In this case, we had planned for over 6 months. We were using our timeshare points and we had a beautiful, accessible place in Tahoe. And it was Friday, 2 days before we were supposed to get on the road and travel. I ended up in the hospital with sepsis, pneumonia in both of my lungs, and appendicitis. So I will say at that moment, it wasn't why is me, but, had other not so polite language going on as to why this was happening. Here I was ready to finally meet her in person, spend a week together. And once again, my medical challenges interfered. And it's the point where my husband won't plan trips with me anymore. He won't take me out of state. He won't travel out of the country, despite that we have beautiful places to visit with our timeshare. He doesn't feel safe taking me these places. So it does, you don't get so much why is me, but we've had enough and why keep on compounding and what the heck is happening? And I will say also for my older son, when I was diagnosed with myasthenia, he did feel wise me and he had a conflict or an issue with the power of the higher being, and it was actually right as I was preparing him for his bar mitzvah. But in his mind, he was like, why would somebody or some entity allow this to happen to my mom, who's already giving all of her time and service to other people? So he did have that conflict with religion pop up for him. I don't have that conflict. I believe things happen for a purpose, and my voice is something that gives power to myself and to others. So I believe there is a purpose in that. But I do sometimes think, okay, I've had enough. We can stop. We can share this with other people. I don't need to hog all the challenges. I got the alphabet soup of challenges going on. We can disperse the challenges to another person. That would be great. But in terms of the why is me, I really never said, why is this happening? Like, why me? I have thought, okay, I've had enough. Let's share. But the question that I've always asked myself is, what can I do now, and how will this help somebody else, right? And I believe in sharing my journey, especially with a severe chronic pain, which is something you can't see, which can be extraordinarily debilitating, which is undertreated in the United States, and especially for women, severely undertreated. It has led to a mission to empower people to find their voice, to learn to communicate, and to learn ways of treatment.
Yeah. Well, you're a perfect example of someone who, as far as with your disabilities, you don't let it, own you, and it's perspective, and it's what you make of it. I mean, it's hard, it sucks, but at the end of the day, you know that already. I mean, you're old enough to, and you've been dealing with this for a long time, as have I with mine, and it's like, yeah, I mean, there's still depressing days for me anyway. There's still depressing days. There's still a lot of pain. There's still a lot of shit that just goes into it that bothers me and maybe takes away my confidence, especially with my eyes visually. Like some days I'm not as confident because it's just they're really blurry or whatever. But it's still, I still get up. I still show up and do my job. I still try to be there for other people. I still try to live my life, even if it's a little more impaired than yesterday. I still go, I'm going to make the most of it, because there's someone out there right now who has some of the same issues as I do, or just has some sort of ailments, and they see me and they go, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And it's good enough for me. It's good enough for me. And sometimes
there's something that you landed on, is that with their chronic illnesses, they fluctuate. It's not only their spectrum disorders, but they can change from moment to moment. And being able to adapt to what you can do in that moment and be satisfied with that is part of the challenge, is accepting, I suck at this, but accepting limitations. I notoriously go beyond my abilities and then have to recover for days and gain my spoons back afterwards. I am notorious for borrowing spoons from the days to come and then having to recover for days afterwards. But it is also being not just satisfied, happy with what we can do in the moment without judging ourselves for what we were able to do a moment ago or yesterday, or what we expected ourselves to be able to do today. And sometimes that's just not it, right? Sometimes I am answering Zoom calls from bed, and I am not getting out of bed and going to my chair and looking all professional, my camera lighting and everything set up properly. And there are days that, I'm just tuning in from the bed. But I wanted to highlight something we were talking about, loss of confidence. And I want to share this because I have been a public speaker since my probably 13 or 14 in high school. I led statewide organizations and meetings with people, with thousands of people in attendance. And I helped recharter the National Women's Political Caucus in Suffolk County as a senior in high school. They thought I was a senior in college. They voted me vice president. We had to change the bylaws because I wasn't 18, so I couldn't sign the check. So my identity, even though physically and emotionally I lacked confidence because I ended up on crutches at age 13 when the rest of society was walking, and I lost confidence in my appearance. But I always had confidence in my voice. And as a public speaker, and having worked in legislative offices, having had the expectation that I would be in Congress, I lost my self-identity when the myasthenia gravis really impacted my ability to speak. I will get very slurred speech at times. I will have difficulty forming sentences with cognitive challenges. With all my disabilities, I have brain fog, or I like to call it squirrel brain. What goes in one moment is out the next moment. So my ability to public speak is not as what it was when I first started law school. And learning to find my voice again and find confidence in that was very challenging. It wasn't until COVID that I ended up getting on Clubhouse that I started working on my voice again. And I ended up challenging myself and stepping out of my comfort zone in being a participant in the Skillshare USA competition. I did service in Skillshare California. I'm a total tomboy, so the fact that I have a crown, I still find to be quite hilarious. And learning how to dress as what they said, quote, as a woman of 2022 was a whole other issue. But I found my self-confidence in my voice again. But that took a great deal of work of accepting. I will never speak the way that I spoke when I was planning for a political career. Although now I might have more vocal writing, maybe more engaging, I might actually be more relatable to people. It's still not the way that I used to speak. Part of my confidence has come through Toastmasters and learning to tell my story and to be engaging as I speak and have that vocal variety and have that storytelling experience. But I will say, when I lost that confidence in speaking, I lost the last bit of my self-identity that I had had for decades, and learning to find that confidence again and self-love of who I am internally, where I am at this moment in time. It took work. It took practice. It took internal evaluation. It took understanding where I am. It took self-compassion and grace for myself that I give to others and giving it on to myself. So it took quite a bit of work. And again, I was actually a hotline counselor in college for a rape crisis and suicide hotline. So I did have some of that training. Although my master's was in education, I did take quite a few counseling courses. That was always my backup space. And I have been trained as a mediator. So I do have some of those skills that definitely helped me practice self-evaluation, finding self-worth, and redefining what success was for myself.
Sure.
I also, by writing about it, I learned quite a bit about myself and where I am, and acceptance that the path that I'm on now is just as valuable as the path that I would have been on, or that I thought I was supposed to be on prior to these disabilities. So there is a lot of self-awakening that I think one must do with disabilities, and redefining where we can find an impact to create our self-worth.
Yeah, for sure. I get asked, I think, daily, just, how did you get so confident? How did you, have this self-worth and all the things you were saying? And I said, look, man, this is within the last year or two. I'm 37 years old. This is not like I've been like this my whole life. I was a shell, who I was in my 20s to now in my 30s, totally different person. Who I was 5 years ago, I wouldn't say entirely different, but definitely a different person. I've had to bust my ass, and I've had to really open myself up and reopen all those wounds that I refused to let heal properly. And I had to really address my issues, and had to really learn to accept my disabilities and all these things. I'm like, please don't look at me like I'm not a finished product, but two, I also this is new. A lot of this is relatively new because I took a long time to get here because life just kept kicking me around, and eventually I had to find my way. And I had a lot of these self-awakenings, and a lot of it even in this last 7 months when I got laid off my job, where I even had that small moment where I was like, well, now who's going to hire someone with a disability? I just lost my job. And I'm like, what? For the first time, I was like, I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to believe in God, and I'm going to bet on me, and I'm going to do things that are very uncomfortable, very scary, out of my comfort zone, and I'm just going to live my life, and somehow it's going to work itself out, and it is. And I've grown.
Well, it's also taking a risk too, and stepping out. I'm teaching adaptive yoga, and I reached out. I ended up being interviewed for a survey from myasthenia gravis with a pharmaceutical company, and I don't know how I answered the questions, but apparently I answered the questions in a way that impressed the vice president of programming, and they invited me to be on an MG that's for myasthenia gravis advisory panel. I went to one of the meetings, and they had asked if you have ideas for unifying the group or for bringing them together, please share it. So I just took a shot out of the dark and asked, would you be interested in working with me collaboratively to create an adaptive yoga program? It ended up being their medical director, who's also a doctor, is a yoga therapist, and had taught yoga at one of their retreats. As they were eager, they partnered with me. Their pharmaceutical company does research on increasing strength for people with rare diseases, one of them being myasthenia gravis. And it was a shot out of the dark. And now we're about to launch a 12-week course for adaptive yoga as the classes. I've created the lessons plans for the classes. I'm teaching adaptive yoga from the wheelchair. My partner is teaching it standing. I'm also including breath work and meditation in each of the sessions. If I hadn't asked, it wouldn't have happened, right? But now I'm partnering with a medical team, and we actually taught it. They sponsored us to teach 2 workshops of adaptive yoga at the myasthenia gravis patient advocacy conference last spring. So I never would have expected that. And I never would have even expected to be able to complete the workshop, complete the sessions, because a year prior to that, I can barely move and barely get to the warm-up exercises. And that day, I taught 2 sessions of it. So that was a huge thing, because it's slow progress for me to get to the ability to teach a full session, nonetheless 2 sessions in one day. But that experience wouldn't have happened, and then I'm an independent contractor with them, wouldn't have happened had I not taken a shot in the dark and asked. And sometimes the answer is no, and sometimes the answer is yes. And I'm teaching a adaptive yoga class for a mental Ehlers-Danlos Society has trainings. They call them echo trainings, and they have one coming up on mental health on Monday. And I created a presentation on the science behind breath work for post-traumatic stress disorder and how that can apply to clinician-acquired trauma that so many of us with chronic illnesses have, as well as the science and research has come about using yoga for people with mental health challenges, and extrapolating that to how that can help people with Ehlers-Danlos, whether seated or standing. And I'm teaching adaptive yoga sessions seated with them. So it is a very slow process. I can't tell you how many times I've asked to speak on their panels and so forth. And, this is finally an opportunity that's come. So it takes resilience and repeated efforts as well to really create a niche for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a slow process. I mean, it really is.
It is, yeah. And usually the things you want the most they take forever, man. They take forever.
Right.
And yeah, we all learn it the hard way, but it's so rewarding in the end, because you can have everything you want. It just may not look exactly the way you envisioned it, but you can have it all.
Well, I love it. Yeah. I love that you said it's rewarding at the end, because my neck surgery, I decided to share about it the night before the surgery. And I'm not very public about the challenges I have as much as I am about the successes. And I believe it was the night before the surgery, maybe 2 nights before the surgery, that I posted I was having a surgery that 2 very well-established doctors had said it was likely that I would not survive the surgery and would not take my case. So I really went to surgery with the unknown. I mean, I knew one thing. If I didn't have the surgery, I wouldn't be alive within a year. There were times when I lost my ability to breathe independently. So I knew there was no option, but I also knew it was very scary to go into surgery with unknowns of the outcome. And I remember saying goodbye to my son the day of the surgery, and I was crying. The lights were out, so he couldn't see. He was 13 at the time, and he's like, "Are you okay? You sound a little nervous and upset." I'm like, no, I'm fine. But, going in, my older son knew the significant dangers of the surgery. But I posted, I think the night before, maybe 2 nights before, my fear, the concern that I might not make it out, the fact that several very well-known clinicians were very concerned about my ability to survive the surgery. And I probably had 200 plus responses on my Facebook of well wishes. Like, they weren't just emojis, they were well wishes. And it was beautiful to have opportunity to know that I had made an impact on people's lives. Obviously, it's not the same amount of people that you have following you, but to have that response of love and support, to have all those messages pouring in. I was blessed to see that I made the difference in people's lives. I've impacted their lives enough that they took the time to write a comment. It wasn't just an emoji, to write a comment on my post. And so I went into that surgery knowing that I was surrounded by love and compassion all around.
Well, a lot of times the lower amount, there is like, they're more genuine. I can get thousands on mine, but a lot of them are just saying the same shit. They don't even watch the video, or like you said, emojis. But there are some that genuinely care and are just, even if they can't donate or help you in any way or give you good advice or whatever, they just go, "Man, God bless. I hope you make it through." Like, that's enough, man, because the fact that somebody in the world out there cares about our stupid story, like, we mean something to somebody, even though they don't know us. Like, that means a lot to us, because we're just regular, just people, but we go through some crazy situations and circumstances, and we're so used to the world kind of being cold to people like us. And when people actually genuinely love us and accept us and care about us, it's really heartwarming. It feels good.
I remember when I was working on writing one of the chapters in one of the books, and I remember I was coming up to a deadline, and I really had to finish working on my chapter. And it was one of those days that not only was I in severe pain, but I was extremely weak. And I remember I did not want to get out of bed. I did not want to work on the story. And my husband had said, you never know who's watching you. You have to do this because you impact the lives of other people. And I remember that statement because it was so hard to get up and move that day. And I did finish the chapter, and it was a beautiful chapter. But I remember him saying that, and then somebody was posting on my Facebook post, and it was only like one or two people, but it was somebody who was watching and was inspired by my work. And like, yeah, I guess I got to get moving because people are looking up to me. And so it's always that, I like to say, we can impact the life of one person. We've made a difference. And I remember recently, my spine doctor who did my neck fusion had recommended a fusion from T12 to my pelvic. And for that level of fusion, you have to get the whole spinal clinic to approve it. He was the chairman of the spine department, but also anesthesiology popped in and pointed out that with myasthenia gravis, that long-term usage of anesthesia can lead to somebody becoming permanently dependent on a respirator. And then because of the challenges I have with my neck surgery, the concern of me not surviving the surgery was too high, and they refused to do the surgery. And I remember being devastated because my back is severely damaged and I do need the surgery. And we're doing it piecemeal now. We're doing one vertebrae at a time. So that should be lots of fun. I told my spine doctor he's going to get to know me really well if we're doing one vertebrae at a time. But I remember being so upset and telling my mom, well, I'll have to share the story of being at a point where you need something to survive and thrive, but you can't get it because the risk of death is too high.
Sure.
And her comment was, and this is the person who never wanted to be part of the disability community or serve the disability community, but when she asked me why I wanted to share it, I wanted to share it so people didn't feel alone when they had this kind of a decision that could enhance the quality of life, but the risk of death was too high for it, and you're kind of stuck in limbo because you can't get the procedure that would give you an enhanced quality of life because it risks you not being alive. So it's a horrible place to be in, between stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I knew I had to plow forward, and part of it was finding my mindset. And I will be honest, that was probably my lowest time, and I think I spent a week in bed after that, not speaking to anybody because I was just trying to process this concept that the one thing that would enhance my quality of life is too dangerous because of the risk of my life. And being a mom of two kids, I can't do anything that would risk me not surviving. But I also know that meant that I am more disabled, more time in bed, more time recovering, more time wearing these solid, uncomfortable back braces. But of course, living is more important.
Right.
But having to find, how do I still be of purpose? Because there are so many things that I want to do, so many conferences that I want to speak at, so many programs that I want to be involved at. And quite frankly, I cannot physically do it. I mean, even with scouting, I used to go to all the camp outs and outdoor programs, and I would adapt it with my wheelchair, and I'd still function very well. But now between my lungs and between my back being so severe and the pain that exists with any kind of physical activity, those activities are very limited. And I was finally supposed to go to camp out that I have been in camp out for 2 years. I was finally supposed to be able to go in August. But then I had another setback, so I couldn't go, and that was another frustrating thing. So again, finding ability to move forward even when the things that you want to do that comes your way ends up being something you can't do, right? So I was supposed to go to camp out. I was supposed to be one of the scout masters at the event. And unfortunately, my back and my body said, yeah, we don't think so. That is not going to happen. And I love to go to the jamborees and the events that they have in the summer. And I've been part of teams that have created workshops and programs there. But unfortunately, I melt in the heat, like the Wicked Witch when the water hits them. The heat causes me to stop breathing. It impacts my ability to breathe. It also impacts the batteries on my oxygen concentrator, but heat impacts the myasthenia. So all the senses, including the ability to walk, move, or in my case, wheel, significantly diminish. It impacts the POTS, so it causes more cases of low blood pressure and me passing out. So the weather significantly, especially heat, significantly impacts my diseases. So I can't do the summer camp program and trainings that I would love to do. So that again becomes an issue. I was invited to a special training at Philmont for working with people with disabilities. And unfortunately, it's in the summer, so I can't participate. So it is definitely a challenge finding a balance of serenity and hope and empowerment and acceptance for what we can't do. And I'm still working on, finding the ability to find something that I can do and be happy with that ability.
For sure. Well, very well said. Well, I do really appreciate you coming on, man. Thanking you for just sharing your story. I think it's very impactful and so many need to hear it because it's a positive one, man. It's just, I know you've been through a lot, but you help so many people. So that's why I appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Really respect you and have a lot of love for you. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Well, it's not just love for myself. It's love for people.
Yeah.
Right. It's love to help people. Yes, I love myself. Yes, I have found that empowerment within myself. But it's my mission to help people find that love and serenity within themselves and to help people see the worth that's within themselves, even if their body is shattering around them, whether physically visible or invisible, but helping people find ability to thrive alongside their disabilities. And that's actually the tagline for my nonprofit, Victorious, is to empower people to thrive alongside their disabilities.
Sure.
And my thing is through perseverance, positivity, and play. That is the three pillars of my nonprofit is the perseverance, positivity, and play. Finding a way to persevere, finding a way to advocate for your needs, but finding a way to be positive amidst the challenges and to find a way. In my case, my positivity comes from finding a way to be of service to others. And then, play, to never forget the value of play, of enjoyment, whether it's through creative arts, whether it's through external activities. In my case, one of the things I love to do is I am advisory member for Magical Bridge program, which creates the most adaptable playgrounds that I've ever had the pleasure of seeing. And that play is essential. And I want to just highlight for a second the universal language of play. When people see me, when kids see me, they usually first ask, is what has happened to you? I mean, I have leg braces, back braces, sometimes I have my neck brace, I have my oxygen, sometimes I have my IV fluids, I have my service dog, I have my wheelchair. So that's usually the first question that's asked of me from kids. And my normal response is I'm a decommissioned cyborg, which is, I'm a science sci-fi geek. So that was my first response. Yeah. But I will say at the opening of the Magical Bridge Park in Morgan Hill, which I had the pleasure of being part of the advisory team for, that day at the opening of the playground, the entire day, the only thing that was asked of me is if I wanted to play and if my service dog wanted to play, because we were getting on the spinny disc. They had like 6 different spinning disc merry-go-round type things at the playground. My service dog did get on them with me. He did attempt to go down the adaptive slide, which I did not let him go down, but the dog really wanted to go down it. But that was the question that I was asked. It wasn't asked what was wrong with me or what happened. It was, did I want to play? And it was at that moment that I saw the universal language of play for kids and people of all abilities. And that's part of my, the motto, because part of my fun has come through adaptive sports, such as adaptive skiing and sailing and surfing and things like that. I've had the pleasure to be part of. So I think it's important to bring those three pillars together to create that positive mindset.
For sure, for sure. Well, again, man, thank you for coming on. I hope we can stay friends and keep in touch, of course.
Absolutely.
If you ever need anything or, whatever, just message me anytime, all right?
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. And yeah, man, take care of yourself and do your best to stay healthy. I know that's hard, but do your thing. You're doing great.
The healthy element is very fluctuating in my household. My children like to say, try to keep yourself alive. And that is a joke. And my kids like, are you alive? Are you live right now?
Right.
So that is a joke in my family. But yes, I will do my best.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'm proud of you. And yes, thank you again. And
you as well.
I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Let's wrap up. My neck hurts. My back. Oh, wait. That's a different song. No, my neck hurts because I slept on it wrong, and I'm just getting older. I think old age, even though I'm not old, I'm feeling, little by little, I'm starting to feel like, oh, yeah, old age is going to suck, isn't it? But I'm going to go put a warm compress on my neck because I didn't sleep on it right. And so not feeling too hot. I feel all just achy and shit. But anyway, enough about me. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you again. Love y'all. And yeah, man, I really hope everyone is just in good health, good spirits. Keep growing, keep fighting for your true peace and keep finding ways to better yourself, man. It's possible. No matter how hard it is. You heard her story. She's been through hell and back. She goes through things every day that so many of us, we couldn't even fathom. And yet we still find ways to go, I can't do something. It's bullshit. You can. Just figure it out your own way. Don't do it like me. Don't do it like her. Do it like you. Be your own individual. All right? Love yourself. And heal. Please open those wounds and heal properly. You need to. It's the only way you're going to move forward. In order to start a new chapter, you have to close the last one, right? So anyway, love y'all. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you guys, next week. See you guys. And Bullet is here, but he does not want to talk. He apparently is on vacation. Sorry. All right, guys. See ya. Oh, it's too low. Not now, it isn't. Bye, guys.